There's a beautiful little saying in comedy that basically like the truest things are funniest. And I think
Yeah.
because if we relate to the truth of comedy, then we lean into if this is true for me, it's probably true for others. We're all feeling the same thing. That's been a
Right.
big part of my work. It's such a tough life out there, and it's also a really beautiful one. So I think people that create content, I hesitate to call myself a content creator, but I guess I am.
Letting go and accepting the fact that it won't be perfect and it won't be the
Yes.
same as though you did it yourself, but
Yes.
knowing that that's okay is such a win.
When you kind of show yourself authentically and share your troubles and the thoughts on the world, then people gravitate toward you because you're being real with them, which is very rare in this world these days.
They themselves no longer know what they think
Mm.
because they've conditioned themselves to be so politically correct. All right. Thank you for joining me, everyone. Today, I have a really special friend. I have Tara DeFrancisco. Tara is a seasoned improviser, comedian, actor, educator. She pretty much does everything with a significant presence on stage and online. She's performed in over 9,000 live shows worldwide, including at renowned venues like IO Chicago, Second City, and Comedy Sports. She's also the co-founder and artistic director of the Nest Theater in Columbus, Ohio, which I recommend you check out, and the founder of the Improv Retreat, which is an annual event for improvisational artists. If that wasn't enough, she also co-created and stars in a musical called Here, which is an improvised musical, and it's a two-person improvised show that has toured extensively and received critical acclaim. Tara, you've done a lot. Not to mention, you're crushing it on social media. Over 250 followers on Instagram, over 100,000 followers on TikTok. Not sure when you get to sleep, but curious, how have you been so successful at this? And particularly for our listeners that are really passionate about mental health, you've done a really good job at incorporating positive messaging uh, along the way. And curious, how have you been so successful at doing that, and what's your secret?
I'm so honored by that, by the way. Thank you. Hi. I think that there's a real I've noticed I've had a real wave of followers that are looking for both a good laugh and probably a little bit of a pep talk here and there. So naturally this has been such a wonderful fit. I think the way I speak on social media has garnered a lot of attention lately, and me and my friends are both sort of befuddled by it because it's the way I actually am. So me
And
standing
I noticed
before,
that before the interview too.
yeah.
And that's one thing I said to you, that you're incredibly real and
Oh,
authentic on and off camera, which is unusual.
thank you so much. I mean, it seems to me that like the goal typically is to live authentically, and hopefully your people find you. And you're mentioning a lot about the mental health work that you do and why people are sort of seeking that. It's such a tough life out there, and it's also a really beautiful one. So I think people that create content, I hesitate to call myself a content creator, but I guess I am. I'm used to being called a comedian or like a humorist or something, but when you kind of show yourself authentically and share your troubles and the thoughts on the world, then people gravitate toward you because you're being real with them, which is very rare in this world these days.
Yeah. Yeah, I think more often than not, people are even like the whole politically correct movement. Everyone is trying to protect themselves so much
Mm.
that at first you didn't know what people really thought because they're trying to be politically correct. But what I'm noticing is they themselves no longer know what they think
Mm.
because they've conditioned themselves to be so politically correct, meaning
Wow.
their opinion is actually having no opinion.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
I it's wild because I think that the places I work are incredibly I'm really fortunate to work in a lot of ethical spaces where people are both authentic and ethical, which is the perfect blur Venn diagram of people speaking their truth or living the way they want to live and knowing how they feel about the world that they're in, having a strong point of view and sharing it authentically without retort or retaliation for that. So
yeah.
I love people that speak their mind.
No, that's huge. And creating a safe space for that is important.
Right on.
Listening to a lot of your social media, and I could admit, have been following you for a long time. So it's great to get a chance to connect with you. I've always wondered, do you ever feel like it's difficult to practice what you preach?
No, well, I'll say, I guess it depends on what category that we're in. I mean, so much of the work that I do is comedic by nature, and a lot of the other work that I do is sort of creating spaces, containers for that work. Like, I'd say primarily I'm known as an arts educator outside of being a live performer. And so much of that space is really akin and similar to health, like meaning that there's a lot of tenets that tend to blur and overlap with those sorts of like care for self of how do we provide a space that feels brave? How do we provide a space that still feels funny
Hmm.
or like authentic for people to play within? And I also teach improvisation primarily, sketch comedy and stand up and stuff like that too. But generally speaking, I teach improvisation, and that's about extemporaneous material all the time. And people get really scared of that kind of work because it sounds terrifying, rightfully so. But the weird thing is we're living extemporaneously all the time. So I think once you kind of draw that correlation for people that they are always living sort of off the cuff, then doing that work or representing yourself on stage becomes less scary. And the real challenge for teachers and educators in those spaces is making sure there's like good space for you to try things and to have parameters that keep everybody feeling good about the work when it's, yeah, like riffing and making things up as we go.
Yeah, I mean, I know when you see people doing like crowd work with the
Yeah.
audience,
Yeah.
um, it's impressive, and they usually have such a high level of confidence up there, and it looks like they're just winging it, which is a lot of fun. But how do you create a space where someone feels comfortable failing? Because
Oh,
there's a risk that comes with that.
that's a great question. I feel like we've wrongfully equated failing with, I don't know, a loss, and it's not necessarily the case inside arts, especially sometimes, or science even. When you
Mhm.
fail, you know how to retest or refine. And I think once you tell people that part of failing is regrouping, recentering, and figuring out what will work next time, it becomes less terrifying. There's also a lot of work inside improvisational work. Like, let's say you're making up a show on the spot with five other people. You're like making a half an hour play or an hour long comedic musical or whatever the thing is that you're making tonight. Part of the fun is if you support one another well as a cast member or ensemble mate, ideally there should be no failure because the person that needs the lifting, if they do show signs of like flailing, it's our
Yeah.
job as teammates to protect them and to serve them. So that's the fun of this art form is if one person falls down, it's a mistake, but if two people fall down, it's choreography. And so we kind of like instill that upon
Yeah.
each other. What's the group work that we can do to kind of strengthen the show?
Yeah, I mean, you have that in team sports too, right? If
Exactly.
someone's having
It's
a good
very
game or a
similar.
bad game, you're supporting each other to get that win.
Yeah.
Have you found any correlation between that philosophy on stage to how you function in real life?
Yeah, I think once you start doing improvisational work or like comedic work, you're looking for the light to get in on every situation. I mean,
Hmm.
it's a really difficult time right now for so many people. And I think that right now, as we're looking at what keeps us well or what keeps us thriving, looking for that kind of therapeutic surroundings, the best thing that can help you is sort of tilting your lens and looking for the comedy of like very small scenarios in your life that aren't dire or kind of like tilt. We call it like the tilt. What's the tilt of the situation that allows you to sort of realize like, wow, life is ridiculous, and several things that aren't threatening to you or just sort of
Hmm.
an off day, you can start to look at things with a little bit more a satirical lens that makes things a little more
100%.
playful.
So
Yeah.
in therapy, that's cognitive reframing, right?
Cool. Beautiful.
It's where you're tasked with looking at a situation and trying to reframe it through a lens that will evoke a better emotional response or one that you feel or perceive to be less emotionally taxing. So
That's wonderful.
if you can interpret a situation differently, or judge a situation based on the intention and not the outcome, you're
Mm.
able to respond to it in a way that is less emotionally taxing.
I love that.
So
I love that.
that's similar to that tilt you're talking about.
Yeah, there's so much work that's in overlap. People always sort of, maybe you've noticed this on socials and stuff with my um the people that come to my areas, the pages or whatever. A lot of people are like, "Oh, thank you so much for being my therapist." And I'm always very quick to say, "Not a therapist." However, there are therapeutic overlaps of so much of this kind of work, the
Mm,
self-care work that we can all do for each other, or looking at different, like you said, athletics, arts. There's a lot of corollary behaviors that really help people sort of reframe and recognize that things are, yeah, a fun challenge rather than an overwhelm.
so when did you realize that you have this skill of finding that tilt and then getting people almost it's inspiring them to feel better or perceive things in a way that's more positive? When did you realize it, and how did you realize it?
I don't know. I've always had a really strong team of friends, like, of long-term friendships that have been very fun, funny, playful. A lot of women that have surrounded me my entire life that have been incredibly strong, interesting, intelligent, curious, and supportive of one another. So, I think it's sort of in my DNA a little bit to, like, support and want to root for people.
Mm,
And that really changes your life, just that sort of energy of why would we not root for each other, rather than root against each other, and that sort of reframed the way that tend to interact with humans in the world. And I think that, yeah, pep talking people isn't it can I guess it probably could come off as really saccharine or phony if it wasn't true, but I sometimes say things on those videos or anything that I create to remind myself too, to kind of
mm,
say to myself, "Hey,
yeah,
this is what we need today, team," and team
right.
also includes me.
Yeah, yeah.
Of just sort of making sure that I get that message out, and it's true, and there's a beautiful little saying in comedy that basically, like, the truest things are funniest. And I think
Yeah.
because if we relate to the truth of comedy, then we lean into, if this is true for me, it's probably true for others. We're all feeling the same thing. That's been a
Right.
big part of my work.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I'm curious though, so you're giving yourself these pep talks, you're hearing it yourself, that's helpful. There's these positive affirmations that we teach patients to give themselves all the time to look in the
Mm.
mirror, give yourself these positive affirmations and remind yourself of the things that make you feel better. Where do your insecurity lie? Meaning like in terms of everything's great, love each other, we're gonna go get it, we're gonna crush it, we're super positive. There's this whole like rah rah kind of vibe. But I'm curious behind all that, what is like if I wanted to get to know Tara, what is Tara most scared of? What is
Ooh,
what is the thing that is like your kryptonite?
gosh, what am I most scared of? I'm very anxious. I would say that that's probably my number one. uh, an anxious person that's always sort of worried, I suppose. And I don't think I present
Is there
that
something
way.
specific that you're like you know is your all those statements? Do you interpret them or translate them through the lens of a specific goal or a specific obstacle?
No, it's sort of the human experience, I suppose. I mean, there's probably basically a plethora, a smorgasbord of things that sort of touch my anxieties, I suppose. And I would think that probably, like, the way that you're perceived is a big thing for people.
Hmm.
And that's become less and less important for me, even though I'm a stage actor and I
Right.
do on film things. I think that it's become less and less important for me in the classic sense of, like, if not everyone likes you, that's sort of what it means to be a human. And I think when I was a child, I thought, why wouldn't you like everyone? Or, like, those things that kind of take time to outgrow or reshift or reframe. And it's been really nice to kind of be like, yeah, everyone's not everyone's flavor, and that's okay. I
Hmm.
also think being authentic with folks online has been really nice because there's nothing to there's no facade really. It's not really anything to have to propel. Like I don't worry about the content that I make. People always ask, how do you come up with it or whatever? And it's things I've literally said to friends within the month of the time that I'm recording it. So
Okay.
it just tends to
Be
surface in a
very, very natural for you.
yeah, a really true way, and just like trying to make it succinct and palatable in like one dose so that we can all kind of let something simmer rather than over proselytize that thing. Like just make sure that you really have something to say and say it succinctly and well. And
Was there anything
that's how I'm
shocking
seeing
or
it.
surprising then with this whole experience for you?
With social media.
And like the social media, the mental health advocacy work that you're doing, the pep talks, did anything catch you off guard or you were surprised by or shocked
I
along the
was just
way?
I was just talking to someone, a couple friends this morning about this actually, that it's really drawn it's really drawn attention for me to how many people need surrounding right now.
Mm,
Um, it's something that I knew, but I think that once you're getting constant biofeedback on something that you put out, when you have a number of followers that like to engage with you, you start to recognize that like the numbers and the anthems are the same as
yeah.
response to what you're doing. And I think I knew, of course, people need to hear these things, and of course we should make it funny, and of course we
Sure.
should like say something succinctly. But having that amount of people say like, thank you so much, I needed this, or like I was having a really hard week and this helped, or I'm going to share this with my friend that needs this direct feedback and they're going to feel good about it. It was
Yeah.
so constant that I started to be really overwhelmed in a really positive way, but still sort of like, whoa, throttled by how many of
Mhm.
us are feeling the same stuff all the time, on a human level. I think that's been really surprising. I would say is that,
Well, but also gratifying, right? That you're doing this
yeah,
work and affecting
definitely.
so many people's lives positively. That's huge.
Yeah, gratifying. And I'll tell you what, like sometimes really overwhelming and moving
Mm.
to read. I don't always get to read like DMs. Sometimes they get filtered when you get to a certain number. It's very strange, but you can see some, and I'll see things come through that say really personal, beautiful stories of people that have like shared
Wow.
with their family or told their partner or just like done some reflecting for themselves. And it's
Have
made a
you ever
big
have
difference.
you any ever got the opposite where messages are disappointing?
No, I think there's always a constant stream of weird messages for femme-bodied people online, but I don't think that that's no, nothing about the content itself. People are really kind about it. I'd say I have the best followers
Wow.
probably in the world, for the most part, rather than the extreme outliers that are probably
Oh, good.
bots
No, that's
spreading
awesome.
things.
Good
Yeah.
for you. I'm happy to hear that. So I'm curious if you're kind of lending yourself to all these people as an anchor and they're leaning on you and you're supporting them. Where are you finding your own support and encouragement?
I'm lucky. Well, first of all, I have a wonderful partner, and he's
Or do you just
incredible.
watch your own videos?
What's that?
Do you just watch your own videos?
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, we have a big screen in my downstairs that's just me on loop as long as I can take. What if that was true? No, I have a great partner who's very funny and very kind. I also am. I think I'm really fortunate. The arts are weird, but the cool part about being in a comedy space is that you're surrounded by funny, kind people all the time. So I think I have an unusual, fortunate adult life where, maybe like arts aren't funded a certain way or they don't have the same kind of like access to some things. But the good thing you have access to is really hilarious, incredible people that are always sort of doing the same thing I'm doing, which is, evaluating society and helping out by making people laugh. And you're kind of dunked into a framework like that.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. And
Yeah,
it's important that you also remember to make yourself a priority. A lot of times, and this happens with a lot of our listeners too, that you're helping all these people, you're doing all this good. Everyone's really appreciative, but you forget to put yourself first.
I relate. I relate to that very much. And I'm rooting for everyone with that because I feel my life has changed quite a bit where I founded a lot of these really wonderful organizations, but I'm also often the founder or at head of those organizations. So as my life has always contained this like touring, comedy element, I also have to do all the admin or clerical work for these spaces that need funding and grants and things like that too. And so I think I'm definitely I'm running ragged for sure most of the time. And that's the goal for my year. Speaking to many of your listeners, like the goal of my year is trying to prioritize and delegate and figure out where I'm best utilized and allow other people opportunities to step into what they want to do that I may alleviate for myself. Those kinds of things of like, how do you do that as an adult is a big question for me this year.
And that's so tough. That's,
It's huge.
letting go and accepting the fact that it won't be perfect and it won't be the
Yes.
same as though you did it yourself, but
Yes.
knowing that that's okay, um, is such a win.
Big time.
It is, you have to experience it to appreciate it, but the the value add of getting it done at 85% of what you would have done, but getting that time back in your life is so worth it.
That's so good to
That
hear.
extra 15%, sacrificing your soul for that extra 15% of quality, so expensive.
That's right. I needed to hear this. Good for you. Thank you.
Yeah. No,
That's
listen,
amazing.
I run a fairly decent sized company.
Yeah,
Um, I wouldn't say that, do I think everything is being done as though I would do it myself? No, but I could also tell you a lot of stuff is done better than if I
cool.
did it myself. A lot of stuff I feel that maybe I would have done better or different. But creating the space brings creativity and
That's great.
brings perspective. And it actually all balances out. Some people are doing better than me, some perhaps not as good as me. Some are doing it differently, in a way that perhaps is refreshing and contributes differently. So it really works itself out. But most importantly, my sanity is not being sacrificed. So
That seems huge.
yeah,
You said a nice thing too, which is I'm trying to allow more space to once a certain thing is off my plate or at admin, whatever the smaller things are that you can delegate, you also allow yourself time to create and dream because right
yeah,
now I have no pockets of open where my
yeah.
brain can just sort of like create the next thing or
Yeah, just make sure you don't create a vacuum, because hold that space for nothing and tell yourself
yes.
that doing nothing is okay.
Woo, okay. I'll do my
Yeah,
best.
it's hard. It's hard
It's
because
hard.
as soon as you usually super productive people, as
Mhm.
soon as they drop something, it creates a vacuum, and they quickly find the next big thing or the next creative idea to fill that space because it's unsettling to have that void.
Yes. That's me for sure. I
Yeah.
think being a performer for a living, I've been a performer for 25 years professionally, and I think
Wow.
that we're used to a gig life or gigging, even if you're in a firm where you're salaried by like huger, like larger comedic organizations, you're still sort of going from like gig to gig or show to show. So it
Right.
creates this strange my nervous system is wired for what's happening next or like do I need to book or whatever it might be, whereas maybe that's not the case for
Hmm.
someone that works a 9 to 5 and knows their schedule.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to having some pockets here and there that are like these 3 days are off. That's not a thing that I know at this
Oh,
point.
for sure. It's counterintuitive. It's
No, not at all.
counterintuitive, but and it takes a lot of muscle at first
That's right.
because we're comfortable being overworked, constantly thinking, constantly being creative. Uh,
Exactly.
Doing nothing is actually more effort.
Exactly right. Exactly
Yeah,
right.
I've been there. I
That's
did it
right.
my life, but highly recommended. Honestly, I personally do it when I'm on flights. I don't have service. I don't have Wi-Fi. It is amazing.
That's the best.
It is.
That's the best.
I'm like
I was
trapped. I'm trapped on this plane, forced to like actually just think and iron out my thoughts and be with myself a little bit. And
love it.
yeah, not that
I think
not that I'm encouraging our listeners to take random flights to nowhere, but it is.
yeah, just hop on a Southwestern flight for
Yeah. And
$34 and go somewhere
like
nearby.
the $29 special, whatever it is.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, but it is. It's a nice break. No one can
It
reach you.
is.
No one can call you.
Mm-mm.
So,
I was just talking to a therapist actually about how important it is
mm,
to, or how exciting and wonderful it is when you have a holiday off, because everyone sort of assumes everyone's off. So there's this
mm,
nice understanding that we're all not supposed to be reachable today, and that's like my favorite kind of days.
yeah,
Is okay, it's Memorial Day, everybody's mostly off, so
yeah,
like we all know
yeah.
how to
Christmas
office.
Day, New Year's Day, so
Yes,
nice.
yes, so good,
Sure. Even when my phone dies, it is like 10 minutes of
liberating.
yes. Like
I believe it.
as soon as I find a charger, I'm like, oh God, now I gotta like get
Yeah.
back
No,
online.
this is
But it
the
was
worst.
it's the worst for sure.
Yeah.
Last question. What's next for you? What could we expect? I mean, you're doing all these great things. What's up your sleeve?
What's next for me? I tend to do, if anyone's like looking to find me in the world, I mostly socials, things like that, but I do live performances all over the world. So you mentioned in the intro, I do a thing called Here the Improvised Musical that tours globally. I'm going to tour a new show that's sort of a variety show that's just me working with audience members, which will be really fun in the fall as well. So I think that the next places we have coming up, I'm going to be working with Cirque du Soleil. More on that on my socials later. So, like,
Wow.
lots of things you'll see that are kind of popping up. But generally speaking, I think I'm in Ohio, Michigan, Durango, Colorado, in Quebec, in California. There's like Portland, like random places all through the summer doing comedy work somewhere.
I love that for you. That's
Yeah,
awesome. I really enjoyed our conversation. Feel like we
me
could talk for
too.
hours. You're doing amazing work. I salute you for it. I encourage you to keep doing it.
Thank
And I
you.
thank you for taking some time to share with me and our listeners what you're up to.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely,
Thanks,
for
everybody.
sure. You too. Bye bye now.